All right, Lance. So here's what we're going to do. Those of you out there listening to this free show in this segment right now, Lance and I have been covering World Class since the beginning of 1983, and we are nearly 3 years into it at this point because we're coming to the end of 1985. So what we wanted to do was give a free preview of the World Class show. Now, that's what you're listening to here. We are about to review a long build-up to a match, or not review a long build-up, but we're about to review a big match that was the culmination of a long feud between Gino Hernandez and Chris Adams against Kevin and Kerry Von Erich from the Cotton Bowl in 1985. Now, Lance, I guess I should ask you to correct me if I'm wrong here. I said culmination, but I mean, I guess it's not. They're still going to wrestle here and there, right? But no.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Run it into the ground.
Yeah, I'm saying culmination, and then I'm like, wait, they're gonna keep wrestling. So anyway, as I say culmination, what I mean by that is it's hair versus hair, and Lance and I just thought this was a fantastic match with a fantastic atmosphere with 26,000 in the freaking Cotton Bowl. Just a hell of a match for what it was, and like I said, they had a long feud. Very, very long feud. If you're not a patron and you're listening to this, become a patron and you will be able to go through how many months, Lance, did we cover this feud on the show?
I mean, literally, we've been going since May, but I mean, they wrestled before then, but it really was the Gino and Chris show ever since May of '85, and here we are, October, and it's been great. They've done, videos, interviews from the car lot when they were trying to win the car. They've done it from the gym. They got this Bad to the Bone video. We don't see any of the music, the Bad to the Bone music. We don't get that, unfortunately. But they're a hit, and they have plenty of fans. Don't think they don't. Coming into this Cotton Bowl match, all four have plenty of fans.
Yeah, it was a tremendous, like I said, it's been going on forever, what feels like forever, this feud. And this hair versus hair match was just good all the way around. The atmosphere was great. So let me go first. Lance, I will play the introductions of this match with Mark Lawrence at the Cotton Bowl. If you're a Patreon member, you watching the video version of this, you can see the crowd is just electric. And I should mention, if you're not a patron, you can become one at tinyurl.com/PatreonBTT. That's tinyurl.com/PatreonBTT. It is a great way to support what we do here. Lance and I have been covering World Class again since January of '83. And Doc and Harper and I did some 82 stuff right when the Freebird Von Erich feud was exploding in that Christmas match on December 25th of 1982 when, the cage door was slammed on Kerry Von Erich's head, which ignited that feud. So we've done tons of shows. Not only that, but I mean, I keep saying 200 plus. There's probably 300 plus now Patreon shows to enjoy. Again, it's tinyurl.com/PatreonBTT. With all that said, Lance, I know you wanted to hear the opening of this match. So here's Mark Lawrence announcing the competitors and what's going on.
Ladies and gentlemen, World Class Championship Wrestling here at the Cotton Bowl presents this next sensational bout. There is talent, ego, and emotion on the line as this coveted bout that the world has been waiting for takes place between the world's best two tag teams. There is no time limit. Anything goes. There must be a winner. And the losing team, both members of the team, will have their heads shaved following the bout. I present first the tandem known as the Dynamic Duo. First from Highland Park, the suburb here in Dallas, 240 pounds, the handsome half-breed Gino Hernandez. The other half of the world-famous Dynamic Duo is an Englishman, 235 pounds, the gentleman, Chris Adams. Their opponents across the ring really need no introduction, but for the purposes of television, Denton County, 235 pounds, Kevin Von Erich. His brother from Denton County at 261, the modern-day warrior and former world heavyweight champion, Kerry Von Erich. Ladies and gentlemen, the ring is surrounded by some 20 lumberjacks. They will make sure that the losers do not escape when the bout is over. We will not introduce the Lumberjacks for reasons of time. However, we would like to welcome to the ring the nephew of Fritz von Erich, Mr. Lance von Erich. Your referee for this bout, ladies and gentlemen, a man who accepted this responsibility at the last minute, Mr. David Manning.
Of course. All right, so Lance, real quick, you can feel the buzz in the air and the excitement from the crowd. There's an air of true excitement. When Mark Lawrence announces Kevin and Kerry, you hear the screams from the girls. It's incredible, especially the ones for Kerry. Now, I neglected to say when I kicked off this segment, you were there. You were sitting in the Cotton Bowl. Firsthand experience. What was it like?
Man, I tell you, we've been waiting so long. And, Mike, I wanted you to watch this match without thinking about the rest of the card, because the people that haven't been listening to our shows, the rest of this card was nothing. This is a one-match show, basically. I mean, there were plenty of matches, nothing compared. The second biggest match on the show was Iceman versus One Man Gang in a tape fizz match that went on for a while. Kerry was in one corner with Ice while Gary Hart was with One Man Gang, and it was entertaining for 1985. But the build-up, there was nothing but this hair match for 2.5 months. I mean, Gino and Chris won the rights to this match to pick the stipulation back on July 4th. And a couple of weeks later, they said what the match was, and that began the build, even though it was another month or two before Kevin and Kerry accepted it. But, you knew it was coming all this time. So we are waiting for that. And I'm going to talk about it throughout this, what this match meant. I mean, this is a party. This is the State Fair of Texas is going on. Everyone got into the State Fair free with their wrestling ticket. That Kerry just took off his jacket on the video screen, and the crowd just went nuts at that point, as they do. I think this gives you the best it submerges you into the world-class experience better than anything except maybe Kerry's title win, which is also one of the best visuals of world class. I think that, it's the cage match, which everybody's seen, a million times, the end of that match, or it wasn't actually the end of the match, but the cage door. Then there's Kerry winning a title, and then there's this match. And this atmosphere just with, you can see all the audience, all the fans, their signs, they're going nuts. It just gives you the whole experience of why there's so many of us that are so passionate about world class at this time. I'm going to go back a little bit. You keep it rolling, but it's unfortunate we don't get the entrances because, of course, Bad to the Bone and Stranglehold, it really pumps up the crowd. Gino and Chris were in the matching robes. First time we had seen that. They both let their hair grow out really long. Now I'm going to talk about the Lumberjacks during this, but they're, of course, not really Lumberjacks. They're just there to, keep whoever loses from running out of the ring. It's anything goes, no time limit. I think everybody is so up on this because the hair match at this point in time, we knew someone would actually be bald at the end. There's no crew cuts going on. We've seen in Texas over the last 5 years, Hart's been shaved twice, Bundy, King Kong Bundy, Buddy Roberts in the hair cream. Even David Manning was in a hair match in 81, Killer Brooks in 81. So, we're guaranteed satisfaction. Definitely. As I said, Manning is the referee, and he gets to be the referee, and Gino and Chris are so pissed because when they announced the match, they said they would have their referee, Alfred Neely, who had screwed Kerry over back in 82 in a 2 out of 3 falls match with Ric Flair at Reunion Arena. And so this controversial referee was supposed to be there, and that's never mentioned this entire time until finally they announced that David Manning is taking over. This is at the last second. Mike, what do you think about the other? I wanted you to not think about the other matches on the card. What do you think if we the spectacle of just this match at this point?
I mean, if you would have shown, it's impossible for us to have this perspective, but for somebody who'd never seen World Class or didn't know anything about 1985 World Class, and you just were to play this match for them, if it were possible for this be the only thing someone would see, not knowing anything else about any of the other matches. Maybe you can show them Iceman and Gang too. and then you see the crowd along with this match in this, packed Cotton Bowl, as packed as can be. I mean, basically, you don't want to put people way on the other end of the end zone. You just can't see. But it's packed. I mean, this place is packed. I mean, you could see it if you're watching along with us. It's a spectacle. I mean, there's, I know everybody talks about, will talk about Kerry and Ric Flair at Texas Stadium for obvious reasons. I don't want to downplay that at all. But I mean, this right here, it's just phenomenal. It's tremendous that you've got these two teams, this big feud, and if you could just watch this match and not even think about anything else that was on the card, you probably had to think to yourself, God damn, this promotion was rocking and rolling in 1985. They got nearly 30,000 people in the Cotton Bowl. The way this match is going, I mean, you'd be hard pressed to try to figure out that there's not much else going on in the promotion outside of Gang and Iceman and Gary Hart's, deal.
Yeah.
I don't know. Is that fair to say, Lance?
Yeah, man, I think you're on top of it. Hot crowd. Let's talk about ringside. They were standing all around right before the match. They're seated right now, but they're coming alive every 2 seconds when something happens. We've got all these wrestlers around ringside, which is always a spectacle to have, lumberjacks around. Now, these guys are all kind of bent over. They're in the corner. They're not making any of the match themselves. They're one-man gang sitting on the steps the entire match, and the other guys are kind of leaned over. So they're not making it about themselves. They're all about the end of the match. So again, ringside, they were standing, wrestlers ringside. Oh, some new Von Erich is ringside, Lance Von Erich. Mike has been paraded out, and he was paraded out. We just didn't see it on the show, but he's been paraded out, and then we got to see the interview on these episodes earlier. It's finally time to do this. It just makes total sense. Hart is out there with Lewin and Gang. Of course, by the time this airs, Gang and Gary Hart have had a split. But, he's out there. All the bad guys are out there. I'm going to catch up to this part. Kerry and Chris started really fast. Kerry got a 2 count right after it started. And the crowd just went nuts for a minute. And it's a ride, man. They are taking the fans on a ride. We're in there with Kevin working over Chris. Chris is, again, they really let their hair grow. If you look at Chris Adams versus 1983 is super long. Again, Adams, tags in Gino, but Kev immediately rolls up Gino for a 2 count. In these 2 counts, the crowd is just going bonkers and stuff. The wrestlers around ringside, they're just blend in. They don't take away from it at all. More, it's amazing. The production on this. I just keep going back to that. Kevin does a leapfrog in there and goes with the claw on Gino. The crowd just insane every time Kevin and Kerry do something. If you go to the 25:15 mark, we're going to watch it kind of live, so I'm going to keep talking. Kerry Kevin takes in Kerry, and the crowd's just insane. And Kerry just goes off. He does his discus. He goes off on it, and the crowd is just nuts. I mean, the fans could not be more in the palm of these guys' hands. I mean, they are just taking them on it. And I'm going to say it's great work by all of them. Some people say, they're not working, they're not doing this and that, they're brawling but this sold tickets. This is what 1985 was, and it was all about this stip. And again, I sometimes on these shows, I make fun of David Manning. We talk about him getting his stuff in and things like that. He gets on the mic and everything. But, Manning stays out of the picture. We'll see him kind of going around the match, but, he fits right in with it. He really does. There's a big super kick in there on Kerry for a 2 count. It scares the fans. There's a nice move in there where Adams goes for the suplex on Kerry, and Kerry drops behind for a sleeper on Adams. And again, the crowd. I mean, that's what I want you to see. You almost got to watch this twice. You listen for the things I say, because the crowd is just going nuts. There on the screen, Mike has it. Kerry Adams missed a super kick. You never saw the guys avoid a super kick, and Kerry with the discus and goes for a pin. They had a commercial break in there, but it didn't bother. They picked it up right where they left off. Kerry. Again, it's just going on. Mike, show me a timestamp where you're at on there. real quick?
27.
Perfect. Okay, so Kerry is fixing to get tossed out of the ring, and Gino is going to hit Kerry with this chair, and this solid foot chair bounces it off the back of Kerry and stuff. But it is anything goes, so that kind of threw it in. But we're not used to seeing chairs with stiff legs like that. It was like a table at your a kitchen table chair and stuff. So that Kerry is selling the chair out there, and they are going to go for a count in a second and get the crowd a little worried and stuff. But it's just the fans are just going nuts here. Every little thing. I mean, they're so ready for this.
Everybody's worked into a lather. I mean, this thing's been going on, like we talked about. It's been going on for months now. I mean, on our Patreon shows, I mean, we've done every damn combination of these 4 that you could possibly do, with sometimes even like, I guess, Iceman sprinkled into it or other folks sprinkled in. I mean, we've seen this thing's been sliced and diced a million ways. We've seen the stuff from Fort Worth that they did. I don't know how else you can put it. Like, this has been going on TV weekly, and there is a lot of bad blood. I mean, we've seen the Von Erichs or the dynamic duo. They've had the scissors that they've brought out. They've cut a few locks of hairs from these two, from Kevin and Kerry. So I mean, like, and then Kevin and Kerry have gotten the scissors and they've cut a lock or hair or two. So there's just been a lot of teasing and whatnot with the hair cutting. So the fans are ready. They want to see Gino and Chris get their heads shaved, and these people are worked into a lather, man. If Kerry and Kevin. If Kerry and Kevin would have lost this match, the fans may have rioted. I don't know. I mean, but they're worked up, man. This is some intense stuff.
So Kerry got back up on the ringside. He out of nowhere. He hits this sunset flip on Adams. Adams punches his way out. Kerry immediately rolls him up again. So I mean, it's just wild how they given the fans so much. They show at the 29:15 mark. That was Chris Von Erich sitting ringside.
Yeah, I saw that.
It's pretty wild. Kevin is tagged in. He is running wild. He gets this drop kick on Adams. He goes over and gets a punch in on Gino. It's just going at a fever pitch. He's going to get this body slam on Adams, and he's going to go run for his splash. It wasn't a splash. He was going for a running knee, which Adams moves. And so it's just insane. The match couldn't be more satisfying. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit more at the end, how much they gave the fans. And we've seen plenty of shows where they're in our memory, they seem like they were good times, but they really weren't that much meat and potatoes. And here we're getting the meat and potatoes. Absolutely.
Oh, they're rocking and rolling. I mean, it's fast paced, but yet they're not moving a million miles a second. These 4, I mean, look at that. Kerry puts the claw on Chris, and the fans explode. They come up. They're like, oh, yeah. It's just good stuff, man. They're actually...
Let me jump in real quick. Go back 30 seconds, Mike, so I can throw this in. I just want to say the fans have reason to worry. They've seen Gino and Chris win the big matches over in Fort Worth when there were stipulations on the line. The Von Erichs were going to get to tear up Gino's Corvette. Well, it didn't happen. They won with the powder. We've seen in these big matches that they can win. So that gives you a little bit. You're able to suspend disbelief. And stuff. So there's real feeling that Gino and Chris could win. It sounds silly now, but it does. I
was gonna play the audio from the finish starting at 30:48 right here.
Right where you're at, there is going to be a super kick to the back of Kerry's head that just looks fantastic. There was one earlier in the show. Again, Chris Adams is never made to look weak in this promotion. Right when he was started with Gary Hart, it'd be Gary Hart holding him back. They never make Chris look weak. Gino can look like a wimp or run away. Chris is always portrayed as a tough guy. Rightfully so.
I agree. Let me go now to the audio of the finish. Here it is.
Type in the speed, the thrills of this bout. Kerry hammers and Chris battles back. Over the top, sliding beautifully as Kerry goes into the iron claw. But Gino breaks it. Kevin attacking Gino. Kevin gets another shot in. Everybody's after it again. Whoa! Kevin flying right here on top of it. Super kick on Kerry by Erich. Super kick on Kerry. Now we got the powder up. Powder in the face of Kerry von Erich. Anything goes. Here's Kevin on top. Chris is still. Now Lance von Erich has come down and thrown water in Kerry's face to clear that powder, and is wiping his eyes. Lance von Erich in the corner wiping Kerry's eyes out. And there's some more powder left-handed. Left-handed Chris Adams here. 1, 2, 3. Kerry von Erich pins Chris Adams. Kerry von Erich pins Chris Adams.
And we have the members of the radio media to ringside, please.
Gino tries to escape right here above us, but
The
he's
members
stopped.
of the radio media to ringside,
Gino
please.
trying to get out of here. Lance von Erich has him right here beside me, along with Adias. Scott Casey. Chris Adams over on the other side, and he's trying to kick his way out, but they are caught. So it's going to be hair cutting time, and the Von Erichs win this. Chris Adams and Gino Hernandez will have their hair clipped. We'll be back with a great climax to this event. The hair cutting in the ring with the barbers.
So Lance, you were trying to narrate some stuff during the audio. It didn't pick you up good at all because I could barely hear you. So I just wanted to let you know everything you said.
Real quick, it was so they got Kerry with the powder. So Kerry's blinded in the corner. Lance von Erich comes and takes off his shirt and starts and is wiping the powder out of Kerry while they go to throw the powder in Kevin. Gino screws up. Okay, that's important. Gino screws up. Kevin moves and gets the powder in Chris's eyes. Kerry miraculously is healed, turns around and immediately pins Chris Adams. 1, 2, 3, and it's just nuts. And the party begins. They've got this table in the ring, this platform, and they put the chair in it. So it helps for everybody to see what's going on by them raising it up a little. And they did that in WWF a few years ago when Brock Lesnar and Triple H or John Cena, and they'd put the ring steps in the ring and then do the Kimura or something on top of the steps, just kind of raising it up. And this is fantastic. I mean, all the jobbers are in. First of all, it's guys from the radio station. Our friend Doyle King, who would become an announcer later, he's one of the first guys that gets to, that's him in the sunglasses and pink shirt in the back. There's 2 DJs. And then all the guys get to come in and start cutting the hair. We see Adias get a snip, a Casey, Iceman, all the guys that they've have been cutting the hair. And then finally Kerry has the shears and he starts in on Chris Adams. The camera they get that camera right up there. It's showing the shears, just taking the hair off. And a lot of people will say things about, what's the big deal about hair in 2020, but in 1985 back, it was a big deal. It was fantastic. And as far as Chris goes, it's revenge on Chris because Chris, of course, a year ago at the Cotton Bowl destroyed Kevin with the chair shot. On Gino, it's a guy who has said, he calls himself gorgeous, and it's all about the humiliation. So I love it that Gino gets to go second and stuff, but it's fantastic. They're just they shaving him down. There's no crew cut. They're shaving him bald. It's just fantastic.
You said something. I mean, it's 2020. I guess young people don't realize it. Maybe fans in the last 20 years. I don't know. If you were born in the late 90s, early 2000s, you may not be listening to this, but 2, you just can't understand the hair thing. It was a thing in old school wrestling, and we saw it from time to time. And here was another perfect example of it. And I mean, Gino and Chris selling it too, like first off, you said something earlier. They grew the hair out a little bit, which was one like big thing. Like they grew, and they're not like walking around, looking like Willie Nelson or nothing with flowing hair or anything. I mean, I'm not trying to make it sound like that, but or Gino right here, you could tell he's got a lot more hair, but he's fighting the whole way to get in the ring, and then he thinks he's about to make an escape, but the Lumberjacks catch him. Chris Von Erich actually tackled him.
Chris Von Erich tackles him, and that'll be said for years, that Chris Von Erich tackled Gino, and the others got in there behind him.
It was
that's a big deal. That Chris got the tackle on. That's Chris's big moment. I mean,
that was a shoot to Chris right there. That was a shoot. He really thought. But no, I was just saying, like, it was the hair thing was a big deal. You're about to cut these guys' hair, and to them, you got to give them credit. Chris and Gino, they thought and they knew, like, as their heads getting cut, they're like, oh my God, this is freaking embarrassing. Like, that was the whole thing. It was the embarrassment of not only losing but having your head shaved with the clippers. So it's a big deal.
They just make it so realistic that they hated it. Now, of course, they knew what's going on, but you just see that Gino just hates it. He's, they're holding his head sideways and stuff. And by the way, earlier, if you go back and watch when the wrestlers were snipping the hair and the DJs, Chris was jerking around, his head and moving around trying to escape while they had those scissors out again. And we've talked over and over how those scissors came into play during matches, and it's just crazy. These scissors that are a foot long. No jumbotrons in the Cotton Bowl at this time. Now there is, actually, if anybody watched the Cotton Bowl game last week, and also those blue and white seats are not there anymore. It kind of looks a little more sterile, but it was nice that they had it up in the air, and it's great TV work here showing him getting shaved. Now it's actually the second time Gino's lost a hair match. He lost one to Jose Lothario in San Antonio, like his rookie year, and there's some good pictures and magazine shots, and I'm sure you can see it online of Gino getting his hair shaved. But they all get a shot at it, Kevin, Kerry, and then they actually get Chris up on the platform, and he gets to use the shears on the back of Gino's head. And so it's just a party, the most great experience. Oh, of course, Lance is right up there in the midst of it. And if you look very closely, you can see the rocket strapped to his back, big time.
They even brought in Chris Von Erich to get some hair off of Gino.
It's a great, it's great. And stuff. It's all about family, and there's the family right there. They have Mike has been paraded out. There's the new cousin Lance, and there's it's just insane. Everybody out there. I mean, they don't even seem like they're rushing through this. They look like they're having a good time, and they knew them for years and years. So the fans totally got what they wanted. Now, something that I figured out here, Mike, when I was watching this is Gino, they leave just a little sprig of hair kind of on top. He, as soon as they let him go, he immediately goes to the corner and he grabs this girl's sweater. And I was thinking to myself, well, maybe I might get lucky. And I went back on that dark side of the ring, and I found out, and that is actually Gino's manager, and it looks like his daughter. And so they were in the corner the whole time. And actually, the girl, she's dressed in yellow. She really stands out compared to anybody else in the crowd. So they're going to let him go. And he's immediately going to this corner, and we've got it on the screen right now, and grabs her sweater. She was cheering the entire time for Gino and Chris, but gets that hair. But the man next to her was Gino's shoot manager, not the guy that they talk about as somebody that killed him, but his actual manager that found him when he passed away. And stuff. And that guy is on Facebook. I saw he's a realtor in Houston. But that's him right there in the blue with a sports jacket on and a blue shirt. And that girl is definitely with him and stuff. So, where do you get this?
One more thing. When he's running out and he gets the sweater and he puts over his head, the security has to stop some guy from attacking him. And you see that? He's punching him. The security guy's punching this guy back. Some guy in a red tank top was trying to, I guess, get a shot in. I mean, he never made contact with Gino because he just couldn't get that close. But I mean, they've literally got Gino surrounded by 6 guys trying to get him out of there safely.
They want to grab that towel. They were trying to grab that sweater off him. There was another person that they kind of choked out, definitely choked out when they were trying to get Gino in the ring and moving him around. There was somebody. So it was two different things. I mean, they're, those fans, they've been drinking all day at the State Fair of Texas. I mean, it's not like the Sportatorium crowd that I always say, look how good, well behaved they are. And so we go off with Gino being led out of the arena, out of the stadium with the sweater on his head. Where do you get that much satisfaction in a show? It meant something at the time. No, it wasn't the NWA title that we'd seen Kerry win. I don't know what else can stand out anymore than a hair match. How much more satisfying can it be? Where do you get that in another promotion in the 80s? I'm sure there are, but this was a big one. And we've gone from the cage match to a year and a half to Kerry winning the NWA title, and now another year and a half. And a lot of people will say that was the end of the heyday right here. Mike and I still have shows to do. We're going to see kind of a revisit the 1983 at the beginning of 1986 with some returns. And so I hope a lot of people will join us for these shows.
Yeah, it's been a fun ride. I agree. Hopefully you'll sign up, become a patron. You not only get the world class shows, you get the Clash of the Champions we've done. You get the pay-per-views we've done. I mean, God, like I said, I say 200. There's got to be getting close to 300 now. Audio onlys. I mean, there's a lot more than just audio there. There's various post video versions and whatnot, but audio only versions of things. I mean, we've got to be close to 300 Patreon episodes at this point. We've done a lot. Again, Lance and I are closing in on 3 full years of World Class, and don't let anybody tell you that World Class died around this time. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's not the heyday with the Freebirds and Von Erichs, but there's still some good stuff going in it. And that's the thing to remember here. I'll tell you, this was, again, I think you told me this earlier in the show. This was right up there with Flair beating Kerry. I mean, Kerry beating Flair for the NWA World Title. And I know there wasn't a NWA World Title at stake. I'm talking from a pure perspective of how they built the feud up and the enormous crowd, and the crowd being lathered up and ready to do this thing. It was full of excitement. One other thing, Lance, before we get out of here, you mentioned Lance Von Erich being here, and for those of you who are not patrons, I'll give you this. I'll tell you this. Lance and I were talking during the Patreon only version of this episode. So Lance Von Erich did an interview earlier in this episode, or in the previous episode that we're doing right here. So, but this was the first time we saw Lance Von Erich on World Class TV in '85. And the funny part is, another thing, throw something else out as you're joining Patreon. Lance Von Erich's name was mentioned in April of 1984 on World Class Television. A lot of people don't even realize that. Lance and I were having that discussion as well. My Lance, not Lance Von Erich, because this is SMU Lance and not Lance Von Erich. But anyway, this was a lot of fun. I thoroughly enjoyed this, and this is how they close the November 2nd, 1985 episode, which again, we waited forever because the Cotton Bowl was on what date, Lance, in October of 85?
That first week. And so this has been 2 full weeks before we got three full weeks since we've had the Cotton Bowl.
Yeah.
Oh, shoot, this November 2nd? No. It's been a month. It's right at a month.
It's been a whole month before we got to see this.
And they haven't shown Gino and Chris on TV. They didn't show them on these episodes, that we've watched since. And that we'll start seeing them next week and what they do. But, we've seen them bald right here, which is really cool that, we got to see them totally bald. It wasn't the hair cream and we have to wait months. They're actually bald on this episode. And, it's thoroughly satisfying. And I hope people will, I know some people are joining up here and they're going back to our 1983 episodes. And that's when Mike just found me off the streets. But, I think that we go into 1983 that, I can't stop talking about 1983 all the time if anybody follows me on my Twitter account. But, I think we go in depth as far as anybody can go into the storyline of what's happening. Now, I don't go behind the scenes into their personal life. I know some things that were going on. We keep it storyline, the TV show. And I try to throw in, because, of course, in Dallas, in the area, there was a secondary TV show on Saturday nights that was supplemental with this. And I'm able to throw some things in because sometimes Bill Mercer can't be as specific because he's filming so far in ahead, 2 or 3 weeks. And so we I have to supplement in with the weekly show that was on at Channel 11 in Dallas. It was the Championship Sports episodes that did all the local promos and built up these shows more and more, because these shows, of course, were being seen in places like Boston, things like that, and they weren't expecting the people to come in, so they didn't have to do, that many local promos. And so I hope everybody will check out our 1983 stuff. I think that you've got our Kerry Von Erich versus Ric Flair at Texas Stadium's up for free on YouTube, and so people can check out. That's just second. This is second to that. I would really put it up there as the cage match, the slamming the cage door, the Kerry and Flair, and then this match right here, and everything else is there's plenty of six-mans that we've covered, things like that. We just have a good time.
Yeah, I mean, the country whipping match, that was a good one. I mean, that one was phenomenal.
The anniversary of that, it's just a few weeks and stuff. One of my favorites.
Yeah, so 85 World Class is definitely not 83, but there's still a lot of fun stuff. And look, if you love old school wrestling, hopefully this entices you to join and become a patron and get access to all those old world class shows that we'll keep doing until the promotion dies. At this point, we basically drop the world class shows every 2 weeks. So what Lance and I do is we take 2 weeks of the television and we do the world class shows. And Lance's memory, since he lived the territory and he was at the Sportatorium a lot and is just as familiar with this promotion as anyone, he'll give different context to different things that's going on in the promotion during that time in Fort Worth, because we don't get the Fort Worth shows. We get some clips from the Fort Worth shows, but it's mostly just the syndicated shows that we watch and review. Sometimes you'll see those clips on the syndicated show, but Lance will tell us what's going on at Fort Worth and some of the things that aren't being mentioned on the main show that get mentioned in the Saturday, as they call the Saturday night show. And I'll leave it at that. But become a patron, tinyurl.com/PatreonBTT. You'll get access to all of the world-class shows, and you can enjoy that, plus all of the other craziness that we do on that Patreon feed. Again, hopefully you'll join, sign up. We definitely would appreciate it. Lance, I don't really have anything else, man. I kind of wanted to end this thing on a high note with this great match, and we can ride off into the sunset. I'm not even going to throw it back to Doc and Harper and I as we're closing out this week's NWA show. So any other closing thoughts before we get out of here?
No, and if you enjoy this, of course, if you check out my Twitter at Lance Peterson at SMU Heavyweight. It's all hardcore world class. I don't put anything too crazy up there of politics or anything like that. It's basically 99% world class, the good old days. A lot of pictures of where I was at, at shows. Of course, a lot of programs that the guys on the site give me hell about. But I was there, and
I got this program. Michael Hayes wiped his ass with it back in 1983. And Terry Gordy sneezed on it after he gave me an interview, an autograph and whatnot. But I just wanted to throw that out there. But yeah, come check out my programs.
That's what Harper does you when you're not on his show, and then he kisses your ass when you're on the show.
Oh, well. I know. It's so crazy because I never buy any programs. Those were just programs that I was at shows and stuff, and then people give me their collections to hang on to, and I put them up there and stuff. But there's a lot of pictures that I took at the shows. I don't put that many magazine pictures up, but I kind of do this day in history and in just world class era and stuff. So yeah, it's been fun, Mike.
I totally agree, man. This has been a lot of fun. I enjoy doing the world-class shows with you. It's a lot of fun. And again, hopefully a good number of you listening to this will sign up. We definitely would appreciate it. And on that note, Harper usually hits the tagline, but since we're not going to throw it back to Harper, Doc, and I as we close out this NWA show, why don't you hit the tagline and send us home, Lance?